We got the latest on the Jared Goff negotiations, and Bradford Banta, the former Lion, is with us.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Derry with you on a Thursday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, Thursday, May 9th and Friday, May 10th. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to our everydayers who are out there watching and listening each and every day. You love your Lions. You're here with us. We appreciate that. Guys like Divesh Sharma, who I met with today. Divesh, a great guy. He and his friends watch the show religiously. Locked On Lions today brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Yeah, get your tickets at Gametime. Terms apply. We talked about it. You see him on the screen if you're watching on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Bradford Banta back with us. Former Lions special teamer, tight ends coach, has been a coach of the Lions in Michigan, and joins us today. What's up, Brad?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
Good to see you, my friend. So news of the day, let's start there. Brad Holmes on the morning show on the ticket this morning said, hey, look, it's taking time with Jared Goff. We're going to get it done. We love him. He deserves a new deal. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, they were quick to get Sewell and St. Brown done, but of course it's going to take time, the quarterback, right?
It's one of those situations. You got St. Brown done and definitely paid very well for him. I think you saw with his outfit at the Kentucky Derby. So I think he went out and got a new suit for that. And then Penei Sewell, I think he's and rightfully so. He wants to be a Lion and he wants to win. And those are the type of people that you want in the locker room. Regarding Jared Goff, that's a quarterback situation. So it's what is the temperature of the market out there right now? And what kind of talks that those two parties are going to happen? What has happened, and when are they going to sit down at the table and talk true turkey about getting a deal done?
Sounds like they are, but what was interesting, Holmes kind of alluded to, look, the Sewell and St. Brown contracts, it's not like they just waited till the end of the year. It's almost like, I think it sounds like they were negotiating for a while, got them done, just so happened to get them done, a couple weeks ago on the same day. But with Goff, maybe they did wait until after the season, possibly, you think?
That's with these situations, just with my experience, these conversations are ongoing. And it depends on, who calls who first. Are you interested in talking and getting a contract done? And that's either side, the Lions or Goff's, agent getting the deal done. And the other side could be, no, not at this time. And you just leave the conversation at that. But you always want that open line of communication with both parties.
How much of it do you think is, and I think you and I have talked about this, Goff wants at least 50 mil, and maybe the Lions aren't ready to go there yet. Do you think it's that, Brad saying, oh, we're sitting down, we're having great talks, and it's back and forth, and both sides are working hard? Is it just a matter of that 5 or that 4?
It's golly. Yeah, it's just how much ego is involved on both sides. Does Jared want, the $50 million contract? Who knows? But you also, what comes into these equations is thinking in the future and how much the salary cap is going to rise. What percentage? We had a record number rise this year for the salary cap. What's it going to be in the years to come?
No, it's a great point. Jalen Hurts is at 51. Kirk Cousins is at 45. And let's be honest, Bradford, the Falcons showed us how much they really value Kirk Cousins, right, on draft night. What'd you think of that? Because you've been in the league. What is said in the locker room when something like that goes down?
Yeah, it's one of these things. It's a similar situation, and I'm sure it's already been talked about a million times. Whenever Rodgers was drafted to take Brett Favre's place, it's going to take a period of time. Kurt has signed a 4-year deal. Is he going to play that complete 4 years out? Who knows? Nobody knows. I mean, and, how is his recovery coming with the Achilles? I'm sure the Atlanta had done extensive research on his rehab. But at the same time, you have to prepare for the future. I mean, I was in the war room whenever we were planning on drafting Patrick Mahomes with the Saints, and Drew was still at the basically really the apex of his career. He still had 2 or 3 years left in him. And you look at those situations, and Kurt has to realize that the shoe's on the other foot, because he was drafted in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken, whenever Robert Griffin was drafted in the 1st round. And that's the same year. You're talking about quarterback. Yeah. Now the shoe's on the other foot. And Kurt has to realize that, hey, it's a business. He knows it's a business. I mean, look at the net contracts that he's had in his career with being franchise tagged, and for 2 years in a row with the Washington Redskins, and then the contract that he got with the Minnesota Vikings, and now the contract with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Kurt hadn't won a playoff game yet.
No, he did.
Okay. Yeah.
The Vikings won in New Orleans.
That's right.
Years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah. So, I mean, in during the regular season, I mean, Kurt performs well, and he's a good quarterback. I mean, they wouldn't have given him all that money if they didn't think he was a good quarterback. But I think the Falcons got so used to having Matt Ryan around and just his stability that they forgot that, hey, you know what? We have to prepare for the future. They not only prepared for the now, but they're also preparing for the future with Penix.
You bring up an interesting point about perception, because it'll be perceived right from outside the building from some Lions fans, not me, not you, but like, all right, if the Lions don't get a deal done with Goff, that they don't value him, which is not true. How different is it perception wise when you're in the room? Like you said, you've been in war rooms, you've been in locker rooms, and then when we're sitting outside here.
Yeah. And majority of the people out there view it as fans, and rightfully so. They are hardworking, ticket purchasing fans that have opinions because they're getting they're getting information from people like us. Yeah. But at the same time, on the inside, it's a business, and you have to prepare for, like I just stated before, not only the now, but for the future. And, I honestly think they're going to get a deal done with Jared, but it's just a matter of time and when it gets done.
So you and I talked before the draft. We're talking to Bradford Banta, the former Lions coach and player. They went and got 2 corners. What did you think of that? How did you like the approach that Brad Holmes took with the draft?
No, I thought the draft picks, I thought they did a very good job. They not only filled needs, but they probably took best available. And I think where they really shored up the roster was in the defensive back room. I mean, you look at Arnold. The kid has played at a top level at Alabama for many, many years, and and then you look at Rakestraw. He's going to come into this league, I think, with a chip on his shoulder. He's not going to be the fastest guy, but he's going to be doggone physical. And this is one of the things that fits AG's defensive scheme, is the physicality of play. And I thought that those 2 picks really helped to shore up that room, because it was a point of weakness, which we had talked about, I believe, during the playoffs, where other teams were going to attack, and it ended up coming to fruition.
More with Brad Banta coming up next. I want to ask him a little bit more about this draft. Certainly, we'll get into the division a little bit, and just the overall roster as we enter the summertime. We'll do that coming up next. Locked On Lions is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need that opportunity to get something off our chest. Talk to somebody neutral. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you, but it's important to let that out, especially to someone, like I said, who's unbiased on your life. So you want to talk about something very, very important to you, maybe you consider talking to a therapist. And if you want to do that, check out BetterHelp. Therapy can be different for everybody. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team or the draft or whatever it is. You want to get things off your chest? Check him out at betterhelp.com/lockdown. Think about starting therapy. Seriously, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockdown to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockdown. Joined by Bradford Banta today, by the way, father of a CC quarterback, Duke Banta. So, and what'd you say, Brad? You're like an advisor for them. What they need, CC always has had a good football program, but you're a dad. But I know you got to poke your head in there once in a while, right?
Yeah, I like to think that I have my presence felt. I talk with Justin every now and then, and and we just talk about situations, and we talk about certain things that come up, and and I wouldn't say advisor at all. I would just say just somebody to bounce ideas off of. I think Justin is doing a fine job of heading up that program, and he's starting to get it turned in the direction that he wants it to go.
Your son is a quarterback. That's a big QB at CC. That's a big deal.
It is.
How's he doing?
I think Duke is doing well. He's doing everything possible to put himself in position to become the starting quarterback for CC. And anything that he needs, I'm more than happy to help him out and to get him, whether it's catching more balls, work on his ball handling, critiquing anything that he's doing out on the field. I'd like to think that I'm a resource for him and somebody that he can turn to for an honest answer.
Are you telling him to throw it to the tight end?
Of course. There's not a more important position on the field.
Oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, back to the Lions. You mentioned before about Rakestraw and having a chip on his shoulder. There's a reason, though, teams bypassed him. There were other corners that went ahead of him. Why do you think that was? And like you said, do you think the Lions look up and go, man, getting him at 61 could be, like you said, a giant steal?
Yeah, I personally think it's going to be a giant steal. I think he's going to contribute the minute he sets foot on campus, meaning, day one contributor, whether it be, in a nickel type situation and definitely on special teams. I think you're gonna get to the end of the year of the 2024 season, and you're gonna look at his play time, and gonna look at his production. You're gonna be like, all right, this was a good pick. This was a real good pick.
Rookie corners, you played against them. They've guarded you down the field. Does it take them longer than other positions? Is that a known fact?
No, it takes me longer to get down the field for them to guard. So, does it? No, because I would say one of the harder positions is at quarterback and offensive line. But given what Aaron Glenn plays is man to man, a lot of the time, I would say corner is not the easiest, but I would say it's one of the more physically demanding positions. And for these kids to come in here and play I know it's 17 regular season games, two preseason games, and they're going to be playing 19 games before they even get to the playoffs, just because they're rookies. They need to get their feet out on the grass and start playing.
What'd you think of all the trade ups? Certainly, the Brad Holmes was aggressive, traded up to get Manu, traded up to get Sione Vaki, and gave up draft capital in the future to get these guys, including a kid at 6'8", that played in Canada that probably is not going to be a starter this year.
No, he's not going to be a starter this year, but is he going to play? Yeah. I think one of the reasons they probably drafted him, you're looking at somebody that's 6'7", 350 pounds, runs a 4.96 and a 33-inch vertical jump. you're going to put him in there. And I mean, I'll say it right now, but I look for skipper's position on the team. I mean, it's going to be threatened, or it's going to be challenged, because you're going to see this kid come in here and, vie for that big tight end role.
The extra lineman.
Yeah.
Which we know Ben Johnson likes to utilize,
Yes, exactly. I mean, they've had Skipper play that role. Panay Sewell has played that role, and a couple other guys have. But I could very easily for Manu to get playing time, to put him in those single plays, to get him in there and play that way.
Interesting, when they drafted Sione Vaki, he came into town, they worked him out, they saw him at the combine, did a lot of research on him, played safety mostly at Utah, played a couple of games at running back. They announced him as a running back. How much did that surprise you? And is this going to be somebody that just plays, I'm not saying both sides all the time, but that's such a Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell pick, isn't it?
Yeah, you just look for versatility. You look for athletes. Whenever you're getting into the fourth round, and the safety running back from Utah. And again, I think immediately he's on the 53-man roster. He's going to be on the 48-man game day roster, simply because Dave Phipp is going to use him in any way, shape, or form on special teams. You're talking about a threat. I've never seen the kid throw, so I don't know, but you could possibly install him as a personal protector on punt team and just have an immediate threat, and that would back teams off from rushing. And because Dan does have that experience with Taysom Hill down in New Orleans. And and that's what you're truly looking for when it comes to players on special teams, or just players in general, and just the makeup of your roster, because you want players that are able to do multiple things. If not, he's going to bring physicality.
Yeah. Oh, no question about it. You look around the division now. Obviously, the Bears took Caleb Williams and got Rome Odunze, and a lot of people were thinking that's a playoff team. Green Bay had 11 picks, a ton of speed that they drafted in the secondary and then linebacker, and also J.J. McCarthy now in the division in Minnesota. How do you kind of view the division right now, Brad?
No, I think right now, I think it's going to be Detroit and Green Bay. That's the way I see it, at least for the 2024 season. I think Chicago is going to have to mature into their roster, and then the same thing has to be said for Minnesota, because both Caleb and JJ are going to see looks that they really haven't seen before. It doesn't matter, at what level you've played in college football. You're going to be facing athletes that are going to be able to make the plays on the defensive side of the ball, that are going to be there just a hair quicker than they were at college.
You worked with J.J. McCarthy. How do you like that fit in Minnesota?
You know what? Looking at the fit, you have an offensive-minded head coach. He is the play caller. And then what you're going to see is that they're going to call plays that fit J.J.'s style. So I would imagine that Wes Phillips, the offensive coordinator, is going to go back and just look at all the Michigan game film and see what JJ did well at Michigan, and then come out firing with plays that JJ's comfortable with and that he's run before.
Helps to have Justin Jefferson healthy and Jordan Addison. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, everybody's going to pick Minnesota to finish last, but they're not bad. Like
no,
Brian
they're going to
Flores,
surprise people.
Yeah. Flores did a great job of that defense last year.
Yeah. He did. They keep a lot of people on their heels, not knowing what he's going to do.
No one talks about it, but I think Kevin O'Connell's a pretty darn good coach too. I think, if you put Kevin O'Connell on the Bears and had him as their coach, I think I'd have more respect for Chicago. I think he's good.
Yeah, but would they have drafted Caleb Williams? Would they have drafted JJ?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. All right, schedule comes out next week. I want to ask Brad if that even matters to the players, the perspective of when the schedule comes out of what it will look like. We will do that coming up next here on a Thursday edition of Locked On Lions. But first, got to tell you about our friends at Gametime, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, and I have the wrong graphic up. All right, here we go. Gametime app. Get yourself some tickets right now. My son is going to the Pacers game 3 against the Knicks tomorrow night, and he got the tickets right there on the Gametime app. It's the best. It's an authorized ticket marketplace for the NBA, so you get your playoff tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. What I love about Gametime is the view from your seat feature that they have. You're on the app, you're looking wherever you're going, whether it's a hockey playoff game, NBA playoffs, Tiger tickets for this weekend against Houston. Go to the view from your seat and you'll know exactly where you're sitting, moving right and left and all of that stuff. They got the flash deals. You save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create the account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Former Lion Bradford Banta with us, long snapper, tight end, assistant coach, joining us on the program today. We love having Brad on the show. All right, so the schedule comes out next week. Like, as a player, do you sit there and go, man, I want to open the year on Monday Night Football, or I want to be on the road in San Francisco, or how do you view it from a player's perspective when they announce the 17 games?
You know, me personally, and there's a lot of people that do the same thing, is knowing that Green Bay is in the division. You look and see whenever the game at Green Bay is going to be, what time of year it's going to be, just because of weather. That's first and foremost. You know, is it going to be, you know, is it going to be early on? Is it going to be later in the year where there's a possibility of snow and it being sub freezing temperatures? So that's, you know, that's really the only game you wonder about where they're going to put it.
Yeah.
You know, when is the league going to put it? And it's, you know, you're either going to, with the way it is now with them set up in the division, I think it's either going to have, the league is going to set it up to where it's either going to be close back-to-back home and away games later in the year, or you're going to play one early in the year, and then you're going to play possibly the last game of the year that could possibly decide the division. So that's the only game that we ever looked at. You knew who the opponents were. Traveling is just another thing. You know, it's part of the way it is. You know, travel is going to be involved, whether you have to go out to the West Coast or not. So it never really bothered me that much.
It's interesting. I mean, like you said, NFC North will be the last game of the year. It'll be week 18. Wouldn't surprise me if it was Lions Packers at Lambeau for the last game of the year, just like it was 2 years ago. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be surprising. But at the same time, the shoe's on the other foot, and this is a different way to think about it. So now we have the Detroit Lions, who are the NFC North champions. So would they put Green Bay at Detroit for a home game for the last game of the year? It's always, and that's the problem before last year. Everybody in this area got so used to looking, you know, being Green Bay was the belle of the ball. And now Detroit is the belle of the ball, and everybody's gunning for them. Does the league view it that way and be like, all right, we'll give them a little bit of a bone. We'll give them a home game for the last game of the year, week 18. I'll be curious to see just how they schedule it out.
I'm excited to see how many primetime games the Lions get. You know, we used to sit here and beg for a Monday night game or a Sunday night game and go, oh, can we get one primetime game outside of Thanksgiving? Now, I mean, Bradford, we're looking at what, you got to figure 5 or 6 at least. I mean, Dallas, San Francisco, Green Bay. I mean, there's a lot of juicy matchups here.
Yeah, I'll give you a short story. Coaching at Detroit. So we ended up playing, it was Chicago on the Monday night game in 2011 or 12. When was it?
It was loud in there.
Yeah. And, you know, the crowd got the game ball. But at the same time, that was the first time for a primetime home game in a long time in Detroit, besides the Thanksgiving Day game. And there were a lot of people that were very happy that that took place. And now look at where we've come in these, 12, 13 years. So we're looking at 5 to 6 spots where you could get a primetime game. And it's going to, it's not only, it's great for the city. It's great for the club, for the exposure. But I don't know. It's fun to see, and it's fun to see how much the club has progressed in all these years.
No, there's no question about it. There's such a buzz in this town for this team. It is absolutely crazy. Brad, always great to see it. Thanks. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, just talking about the draft, the actual draft itself, just how Detroit showed out. And I'm sure you've covered this on your podcast, immediately following. But it was a sight to see, just the sea of blue of 700 and something thousand people that ended up attending the draft whenever they would show it on TV. And I think hats off to Detroit for putting on a good showing.
Yeah, you were down there. Did you get a close parking spot?
We actually went to an NFL event at Ford Field, so we were a little bit of ways from the actual tent that they had set up. But it was good to see guys that I had played against, guys that I had coached against, just former NFL players down there. It was fun to see.
Love it. Always a pleasure, Mr. B. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
All right, man. I appreciate it, man.
There is Bradford Banta with us, former Lions player and assistant coach on this Thursday edition of Locked On Lions. We are back again tomorrow.